Thank you very much, Cameron.
Yeah, well, take it away.
Okay.
Enjoy.
Thank you very much, Carmen, for that great intro. Hello, everybody. Hi. So today we're going to talk about four-way data binding with Angular, and I'll explain as I go on. Just before I begin, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. This is the part I tell you about myself, and So my name is Sani. I live here in London. I'm originally Nigerian. So I'm the founder of Hybrid, a small consultancy here based in London. I travel around the world to train people in Angular and a lot of Ionic stuff as well. And I'm a big fan of the Avatar franchise. Has anybody seen that movie? Has anybody not seen the movie? Okay. We know who we're going to kick out now. All right. You can find me online at Sani Yusuf, SANIYUSUF. Pretty much, if you find anyone using that username and they don't look like me, please let me know. Yeah, so I can be suing people. So my goal today is, first of all, to talk about offline, because offline is something that, as app developers, we completely forget. And I guess we've gotten that type of behavior because we've always made web applications. We've always thought the internet is just going to be available. It's going to be fast. It's going to be available. But now the line between a web app, a website, and a mobile application is really becoming thinner and thinner. So I'm going to talk about a little about that. I'm going to show you what's available today. So it's sort of like the offline stuff that we have today, how it works. We're going to talk about then four-way data binding. I'll show you what exactly I mean by the term four-way data binding. And I can also talk about where we can actually improve as a community in terms of the things we're doing with our applications. So offline, this is a word you hear a lot. People talk about offline, but what really is offline? Like, what really constitutes an offline state, right? So I think the first one we know is when a user loses all connection to the internet, right? You're in a train somewhere, you don't have any service bars or stuff like that, or you go on airplane mode or something like that, right? You're on a flight somewhere, you have no access to the internet at all. So to talk about that a little bit, to give a bit of background, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a journey. It's sort of like we're going to consider a particular scenario. So in 2017, we've sent people to the moon. There's a guy that wants you to travel around the world in an hour with a shuttle. We've invented all these great things, right? But when you go offline on your browser, that's the best thing you can see. That's the best offline experience. You can play a dinosaur game. Literally, this is the state of offline today. And how do users normally get here? When they completely lose connection once again, or they're on airplane mode. This is how you'd expect users to get to this type of state. So in terms of in the app ecosystem, who is actually doing offline right? I'll be very honest with you, and trust me, this is not like a promotional thing, but Google tends to do offline pretty good. Things like Gmail, Android, Google Play Music, and WhatsApp as well. So they do offline really well. But why would I say that they do offline really well? How did I get there? So what are the things that they actually do very, very well, right? So I spent some time, I use all of those applications. The first thing you notice is they only show you the offline state at the point of transaction. When you're using Gmail, at no point would Gmail tell you you're offline until you actually need to send an email. And it will let you know, okay, I'll save this email, but when you come online, it will come. But right now, if you expect it to go ASAP, it's not going to happen because you do not have connection. And that's okay. But there are some applications that need to let you know that you're offline. Like if you're monitoring a Bitcoin pricing application or stock, you don't want to be seeing Bitcoin prices from last year. You want to see what's happening now. So you'd want to be notified. So basically, you need to choose what is the point of transaction to actually show that. And Google Maps is another one. It needs to tell you that you're offline because if you're going to be searching things, it should be telling you this is coming, this is either maybe cache data or not fresh data. And WhatsApp takes another route where WhatsApp lets you actually do the transaction, but then gives you a notification say, okay, 1 tick means it's actually gone to the server, 2 tick means the person it's been delivered and it's been read, or it's not gone, so it hasn't left your machine. So that's pretty good, but that's sort of letting the user know the state of their transaction. But there's also flaky connection, right? Because sometimes you have connection, but you can't actually use the internet. You can't actually connect to some sort of data point. And this is, does anybody know what this is? This is what I call Li-Fi. like literally. No, it's not my term, but it's basically your phone. You see a couple of bars or like on your phone, you think you have connection, but actually your phone doesn't know what it's doing. There's no connection. It's just basically going around saying, oh, let me try to connect to something. And you as a user, you think that there's connection. And we've actually gone ahead to fix this lately. There's a lot of stuff in the community that's come out to fix this. The service worker has come through now, and Safari is finally implementing service worker. I never knew I'd be alive the day Apple would actually do the service worker. That's great. But yeah, so the service worker allows you to now manage a lot of like bad connection state. How does it do that? This is how the service worker works. So in case you're not familiar with what the service worker is, it's a new browser standard that sort of like sits as a proxy in between the server and your application. So when you send network requests, they go through the service worker first and then go to the network. And when they're coming back, they take the service worker first and then into your app. Now, why is that really cool? That means now you can actually work offline and you can cache a lot of data. And in case you're trying to get like a picture, but it's not really working out for you, you can sort of like get something from the cache. Makes your app experience way much faster and better. So we can say in today, 2017, the flaky connection is not really something we really think about. It's not really something we worry about as well as we normally used to. But what about what we're actually here to talk about, which is complete network loss? You're on a train somewhere, or you're on a transatlantic flight, and imagine if you were on a transatlantic flight and you couldn't search through your old Gmail, emails. That would really suck. Or you would open Instagram and you couldn't really see anything. I wouldn't want that. Or think about an app like maybe Wunderlist or Evernote. I couldn't really create a note because I didn't have connection. In 2017, that's simply not acceptable. You want to be able to manage that. So let me tell you a bit about our own scenario with the contract I've been working on for the past year. Is we have these caseworkers that go and help a lot of patients, and they interview these patients on in job centers and everything. These are people that have been out of work for a while, so they on the benefit system. So they interview them with long, questionnaires and everything like that, and then they go meet all these guys around town, and they have to go back to the office to type these things, So you've gotten the information, now you have to go home and actually spend another time, which you're not getting paid for, to actually type up the information you've gotten. So we saw that, we were like, this is simply not acceptable. Why do they do that? And they said the reason is because they can't take their machines. But even if they do take their machines, they need internet. And the internet is not really, in a job center, you might not get the best network. So it doesn't really work for them. So we were like, it's crazy. In 2017, are you serious? So this is how it should be. They should be able to just meet these clients and just give them a tablet or computer, fill the information right there. And whether there's connection or not is not even a question. It should just go in. And then when they finally get to some connection, then the information will just sync up automatically. And if there's a problem with sync, maybe there's something didn't sync properly, you should be notified that this is the state of your transaction. So how did we solve that particular problem? So we used PouchDB. Now, what is PouchDB? So PouchDB is basically a front-end technology that sits on the client side. It's a browser-based storage system. It can harness, you can configure it to harness IndexedDB, WebSQL, local storage, and session storage, depending on your use case, or even in memory. So it's sort of it sits on the client side. It creates a client-side database that you transact with it via JSON, and you just work with that. It has a completely flat structure, so that you don't have things like maybe arrays or you can't do nested level stuff. It's very, very flat, but there's some things that you can actually do to overcome that sort of limitation. And it's for a reason. It's because we want to be very, very performant. And it has the greatest selling point of PouchDB is its sync capability and conflict resolution. So what if 3 people want to write to the same data at the same time? What happens if 3 people have gone offline? This is where it really shines, and I'll talk to you about that. So if you're working on a Cordova application, you can actually extend it with SQLite so that the PouchDB will work with your native Cordova side of things. It's also revision-based. So everything you post on PouchDB is like a revision. So every document, if I have like my user profile, for example, when I make a change to that user profile, the document is actually a new revision gets created. So you're always having access to the latest revision. So it's sort of like Git, but you can always also like go back down the tree to say, okay, what was this data like the very first day, or like the last time it was written in? So it's sort of like a Git a repository of each specific data has a revision-based system. So it looks like that you have like an ID and a revision ID that you can query specific revisions. Because if somebody is offline and another person has like a latest version of data, that person, both of them can still use the app even though they have different revisions, which makes it great to handle conflicts. It allows you to do a lot of CRUD operations. You can do a port operation, which allows you to send data with your own user-generated ID. And this is really good when you're like moving across, maybe you're migrating from one platform to another. And that's also how you update data with the put. And then you also have the post operation, which allows you to post data, but it automatically generates the ID for you, so you don't have to worry about that. Then you have a get operation, which basically just lets you retrieve data. And you can also retrieve a specific revision. If you don't want the latest, you want maybe a specific revision, you can pass that revision ID and get it. And you have, of course, remove, which allows you to just remove something out of the database. But yeah, like some of you are like, I've said the word four-way data binding, like I haven't even talked about the bloody thing, right? So let's see what I mean by four-way data binding. We love to stay in sync as developers. Data changes very easily. Think about Facebook. Like, you're on a thread or Twitter, people are liking and sharing, so much is changing. And if I'm on Instagram, I like to use Instagram a lot. If I like this very beautiful picture that I've seen on Instagram, I want that to sync when I do come back online. So we're very familiar with two-way data binding, which is what Angular bought for us, which is basically gluing the view and the model together, making sure that once one changes, if you make a change from the view, the model will change. So if the data that holds, for example, on Facebook, the number of likes, if I change likes, I don't need to refresh. It just automatically changes that value. And then Firebase came and made the notion of three-way data binding, basically taking that to the next level and making sure if you make a change from the server, you get it as a user, if you make a change on any of these levels. So for example, if this particular post I have has been liked 200 times, but I don't have connection, and somebody likes it elsewhere, so 201, I should be able to get that because that's coming from the server. But then comes four-way data binding. This is basically where we do all of that, but we also glue the local database, because what happens when the server is not reachable? Which point of data is the source of truth? This is where we all get confused. We're like, okay, which one do I believe now? But if you have a local database that's sort of like a reflection of the data the user needs, then that's your primary source of truth, and that reconciles with the server. So let's live replication and sync is something, but now I'm actually going to go ahead and show you some stuff, a little demo I built. So I'm just going to do this first. I'm going to show my screen bar. So I created this app called Chasu. So like I said, I'm Nigerian. Chasu is a word in the Hausa language, which I actually speak. It's a West African language, which basically means like a little bit of dancing and just going on just like music. You can translate it in so many ways. Somebody's probably watching me saying, I don't know what I'm saying, but yeah. So basically this is, I like a lot of like Afrobeat type music. And this is like sort of like a to-do app, but just allows you to sort of like list some of your very favorite songs. So basically what it does is you just come here, you add a song. So I can just say, I can add a song called Zona, and I'm using the same image over and over again, but this is actually going to the server and actually posting a local server that I built here. And this local server is running on CouchDB. So one thing with PouchDB is it syncs up with any CouchDB-based database. So if you're using Cloudend, Cloudbase, anything that supports the CouchDB protocol, you're good to go. And if I actually refresh this particular page, you can actually see that particular record. And if I go ahead now from the server, so now I'm in the server level. If I go ahead, no, actually, I want to call this song, I don't know, Michael Jackson. for example, and I save that, if I go back, I can actually see that basically that three-way data binding has happened. That's the point. But what if I go offline now, in terms of here, I go offline, and then I actually now change the record from the server? What happens then? You would want an immediate sort of refresh of data. So I can go ahead now and actually change this back to zone now, which basically means sit down. And if I go back, this hasn't changed, of course, because I'm supposed to be offline. But if I then come back online and we give some time if the internet doesn't fail us, that reconciliation should be able to happen now. Yeah, so we've seen that. So that means now when I'm offline, if I just go into the train and something has happened, as soon as I get out, I don't really need to worry. I'm just going to get the latest. But what about the other way around? What about if I go offline and I make an edit to this particular data? So I'll just type the same thing now and edit this particular data. So to the user using the app, they don't really care. They're still being able to transact with that database. They can still push, pull, create new records, and do everything and remove records. But what they want is, they don't want to have to be the ones to handle that. When the network comes back, the server and your device should just be able to reconcile and create that four-way glue. So now let's actually go back, let's go online and actually wait for the CouchDB to do its magic. And if we give it some time, and we go back to this particular page, we do the table. So we just refresh this here. We actually go back to the table. So let's give it a while. Okay, so my syncing doesn't seem to be working properly now. Say that again? So I think I got confused there. So it did work. Oh, apologies. I thought I actually deleted, so I added back. Sorry, yes. Of course. Thank you for that. So it now syncs up. But where this is really cool is, what if you have multiple devices? What if this guy's somewhere around the world and they update the same record? That's where PouchDB really shines. So I'm just going to go back to the slides here. And this is where PouchDB has the live replication. So that's what I just showed, being able to replicate from the server downwards live. And you can catch so many events, like when the document, a specific document has changed, when the live replication has been paused, active, denied, so many things that you can sort of handle. And the reason why you have this is because you want to be able to handle conflicts. And because different types of conflicts can happen. If you write the same data and I write to the same data, and we both come back online, who's the truth? Who's the source of truth? Most databases today just get the guy that just wrote it the latest, just give it to me. But what if I made a change in this device, and that's what the change I want, but I made the change in the other device, but this doesn't come online first? What happens then? If I see something newer that I'm not expecting, I want to be able to do that. And that's where that revision system really comes powerful, because then you can manage conflicts. And PouchDB will tell you that this file is in conflict because two people have tried to write it. Now I'm going to deterministically write this one, but if you need to handle that differently, you can just go ahead and take this particular revision and roll back. And this is pretty good. This is sort of like what a lot of apps do, where they show you, on your iPhone, you actually wrote this, or on your Mac, you actually wrote it. They tell you what device as well, and then you can actually merge that type of conflict. So how does PouchDB actually go about this? So I talked about how it syncs with any CouchDB-based solution. So if you're using any CouchDB-based backend, you just get that syncing free. But even if you're not, think about you're using something like maybe Azure or something like that maybe doesn't necessarily have a front-end side. You can still use CouchDB and just create your own mapping to how you want it to go up. So you can create like a reflection of whatever database you have. You might not get the syncing because it's not CouchDB-based, but at least it's a start. Your users would have a local, very, very mature, persistent local database, if that makes sense. So we talked about how it's supposed to live replication, change detection, and some other great features is like, now since CouchDB 2, we've gotten the advanced MongoDB style query. So you can actually go and query things like, do a lot of like complex MapReduce type of things. You can say you want to get specific type of data, and you can do filtered replication. Instead of replicating the entire database, you can replicate only the part the user needs. So if you have a user that has 5 gigabyte of database, you don't want to replicate that on the front end. You just want to replicate maybe the things that you really, really need, and you can specify that with PouchDB. So I want to say a special thanks to, Kevin, who actually is a developer I've worked with, and Kevin is the guy that got me into PouchDB, and Nolan Lawson as well, who is the guy that made PouchDB, and Joshua Maroney. Well, just before I go, I think the best thing I can do here is actually to show a bit of the code that actually made that little demo that we saw work. So I'm going to go back now to the code. The first thing here, this is an Angular application, by the way, that's built with Ionic. So it's pretty much just a normal Angular sort of like provider here. So I'm just going to open this. I'm going to go to the pages. I'm going to go to the home page here. So I kind of put everything in the home page to make it very easy to read. All I've done here is I've required PouchDB, which I installed via the npm, and I've created a new local database here. This is what I'm doing here. But if I wanted to, I don't want a local database, for example. I want to connect straight to the server. I can put my REST API there and connect straight. Because some apps don't want to say, if you're creating a bank application, you don't want a lot of that data on the front end side, things like that. And I'm specifying some options that I want live replication, and if the connection fails, I want it to retry automatically. Then this is my local host database that I created, and I'm now syncing them. So I'm saying my local data and this particular database we can sync. So this is very powerful because you can create different local databases and sync to different remote databases at the same time. And then I just get the data. I save that in some, property on my class. And whenever I'm creating, I just call the create to do function, which is somewhere down here, which actually just does the post. And we have the update to do. And also I have this handle change function, which if we go back to this large enough, by the way, guys? All good? Okay. If we go back to here, you can see where I actually use the handle change, and I'm saying that whenever a change occurs, just run this particular function. It's sort of like a callback, and inside the handle change, I detect if it's a delete operation, remove operation, write operation, and I handle that the way I want to, and in case there's a conflict as well. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, what the bare bones that made that particular demo possible. That's a very simple demo. But think about everything. You don't have to think about like the same way like I created their demo. Think about different types of application. Think about like a virtual reality, sort of like design your home. Let's say I just got married and I moved into this new house and we're designing our house virtually. And I put the couch here and I go offline and my wife comes online. She doesn't like where I put the couch and she does that. That's something I want to make sure syncs properly before I go buy the couch. So stuff like that, it allows you to think about ways you can really use offline to do so many types of like really, really cool applications. So again, I would say special thanks to these people. You can get started today on the PouchDB website. There's a lot of really good offline stuff. The PouchDB website itself actually works offline. So as soon as you go there, and they've even added service worker. And some of the other things that people are doing are trying to merge PouchDB with something like to run in a separate thread in the JavaScript browser, to run with the service worker as well. So there's some really good experiments going on. If you have any time, I'm actually trying to start the Angular 2 PouchDB, or before Igor catches me, the Angular Pouch, library that would take advantage of observables so that you can just use streams now and make that really, really cool. So if you're really interested, hit me up in, on Twitter. If you want to learn about this as well, I'm teaching this in this new school I made online, so ui.school, you can go ahead and Pouch. This type of stuff is one of the things we're going to be talking about. Like I said, offline is every developer's responsibility. Always think about conflicts. Don't think that conflicts wouldn't happen. They will happen. If you're trying to use a tool that's like a database, and if you search the documentation for conflict and you don't see it, don't use it because it's not offline first, if offline first is your case. Yeah, you can find me online at saniyusuf.com, and I'll be having the panels and everything today, and I'll be around all the time. So if you have any questions, feel free to come up to me. I don't bite, maybe just a little bit. But thank you very, very much for listening to my talk.